channel. My name is 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗲, as you already know. And I just want to take a minute before we get into today's video and talk about thank you and gratitude, because I'm really grateful for those of you who watch the videos, share the videos, talk about the videos, drop comments on the videos, and even drop comments on other platforms. You are appreciated. So today I wanted to get into a conversation that probably needs to be had. I'm going to probably introduce a term to you because every time I talk about it, people ask me to talk more about it. And I'm like, okay. So I want to talk about warning signs in relationships, definitely romantic. Sometimes these also happen in platonic relationships as well. However, the reason why I want to talk about it is because I was at lunch with a really good friend and we were talking about how things have been normalized in our culture, dysfunction in specifically. And so it's nothing to call somebody a narcissist, or it's nothing to say a relationship is toxic, but here's the deal. We can all be narcissistic and we can all be toxic. So my thing is the behavior chronic or is the behavior acute? Chronic means it's always there. Acute means it's just there for a little while. So I want to get into these warning signs, and I have 4. And of course, as you know, there are always timestamps at the bottom. If you're still here with me, make sure you press the like button and let me know that you're at least thankful for the content that I'm creating, because I enjoy creating it for you. Okay, so listen, this first warning sign probably looks a little bit like forgetfulness. And you may have had the experience where there's a situation and maybe there's a dispute or a disagreement or some sort of conflict, and you're going back over what you said to them and they're going back and saying what you said to them. And you may find that those two things don't exactly sync up. And the worst part of it is when the conversation escalates and somebody ends up saying, I didn't say that, or that's not what I meant, or they begin the blame game, you know, you took it the wrong way, whatever. Yes, I did. There was too much glare on my lips, guys, you know. Oh, and I need to tell you, this is my Natural Born Icon shirt from Danny D. She's another coach. I love her, and you should probably check her out. I'm going to put her link below. How about that? Okay, so I know some of y'all are like, did she just fix her lip gloss? I did. My lip gloss be popping. Okay, great. So it looks a little bit like you're being blamed for either getting the information wrong or for communicating what they said wrong. And if that's the case, if you've ever had that situation, you can say, I have, in the comments, and I know that I'm talking to you. This is a warning sign, ladies and gentlemen. It's not them just being forgetful. It's not just a difference of opinion. If they're going to defend to the end that you did not hear them say what you know that you heard them say, and if you feel ultimately like you wish you had a recorder for every conversation, because you never know when this person is going to conveniently forget that they said what they said, this is called gaslighting. It's called gaslighting. And it comes from, if I'm correct about my research, it comes from a situation where I think a person kept turning the gas light on, I can't remember. It was on my mind and then I completely lost it. But they were doing it. And so their wife would say, oh, the gas light's on, the gas light's on. And they would be like, no, it's not, knowing that they're the ones that turned it on. This is a huge warning sign. And I get it, in the beginning, you might give them the benefit of the doubt, which I have told you is a trauma response, Home Alone face. But it is a warning sign. It is an absolute warning sign, especially if you see it happen more than once. Here's the thing. In new relationships especially, people are getting to know each other. And so something might happen and something might run them up. Okay, so this goes back to chronic versus acute. Is this happening one time and then maybe it doesn't happen again for a really long time? Then that's one thing. Is this happening? Then it might be forgetfulness. Is this happening and it keeps happening and it keeps happening and it keeps happening to the point where you literally start to record conversations so that you will have evidence? If you feel as if you need evidence to have a conversation with somebody in your life, you're more than likely being gaslit. And so that might be your cue that maybe this relationship needs to change. And I'll leave it up to you and empower you to make the best decision for yourself. All right. Now, though gaslighting is pretty bad, sometimes you'll have a relationship, and when conflicts come up, people act a little bit differently. And let's be clear about conflict, right? In all relationships, there will be conflict. That does not mean there will be arguing. I need everybody to stop believing that arguing is normal. It is actually not normal. It is actually not something that all couples do, because some people actually do know how to de-escalate a conflict, and so they do not escalate into an argument. Okay. And these are some of the things that we talk about with our clients, because people will say, oh, we argue like every other couple. Every other couple does not argue. Yeah, they don't. So there are tools that need to be learned there so that you're not doing this. But for some couples, they absolutely aren't arguing because they're not saying a thing. They're not saying a thing. They're going into this silent treatment. They're not talking to each other. They may live in the same house. They're walking over each other like socks on the floor. It is as if the person does no longer exist. And you're like, wait. Like, this person has no presence in your life, like they no longer exist. And one of you may actually still be trying to have a conversation. And if that's the case, and somebody is really not communicating with you, you're being stonewalled. Think about it, stone wall. Why is this a bad thing? Well, it can be a bad thing if you guys haven't had a conversation as to how we handle conflict. Now, I am never going to be a fan of couples or people who claim to love each other invisibilizing, because I think that is actually a word, invisibilizing each other. Life is short. You are really being super arrogant to think that you will have later to come back and atone for what has happened between you and this person. Don't be that arrogant. So in stonewalling, if you're taking a break to say, hey, things got a little heated, let's retract our claws and let's talk about this later when we're a lot calmer, then great. If you're being invisibilized, meaning that you're trying to have a conversation, or you're even trying to go on about your normal daily routine with each other, and you're not being talked to, your questions are being ignored, then that could be stonewalling. And a lot of times it's meant to wear the other person down. I'm not going to answer any of your questions. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to do any of that. And maybe you'll just shut up. Well, here's the problem with that. Just because somebody shuts up doesn't mean the problem goes away. How many times have you been in a relationship where you say, oh, we don't argue? However, when there's a conflict, everybody shuts down and we never get back to the conversation that would help us resolve the situation. Anybody? If this is you, put me in the comments. I'll know exactly who I'm talking to, because when I was thinking about doing this video, I immediately got the things that I needed to talk about. Literally, all I could do was walk in the house and set up the lighting and do what we needed to do. Actually, this is Studio A. It is no longer my home. Studio A. Okay, so I knew what I had to share with you, because again, dysfunction has been way too normalized in our culture. And so we think that it's completely normal to argue. It's not. Okay, maybe it is normal for some people. It's just not healthy. And so if you have in your mind that, oh, well, we argue and all couples argue. No. Oh, well, we bicker every day. Everybody bicker. No, they don't. Bickering to me is like water on a rock. Ever seen the Grand Canyon? Yeah. So now what? Now what do we do? I'm like, we've got the gaslighting, we've got the stonewalling. Some people are going to disagree with this third one. I'm just going to be honest with you. They really are going to disagree with this third warning sign. But I don't care about you disagreeing, because I think you need to understand what this means. And if you're a person that does this, I need you to understand what that can do to your relationships, be them platonic or romantic. Okay. And I know that for a lot of people, they think this is not a big deal. They think, oh, they'll understand. Oh, I'm just going to gather myself. Oh, I'm just going to do X, Y, and Z, yada, da, yada, da, yada, da. They think inherently, for some reason, that the person who's on the receiving end of this behavior is going to understand why. And I just want to tell you that if you do this, it is extremely hurtful. Extremely hurtful. I don't care if you've been out on one date or if you've been dating for 6 months or a year, or if you've been friends for a really long time. This is extremely hurtful behavior. And I get it that maybe you didn't mean to hurt anybody. Maybe you were spiraling and you just couldn't seem to get your footing. It is still very hurtful behavior. And if you do this, you run the risk of dismantling relationships that actually and genuinely care about you. And you would have done it yourself. It is not the other person. These are the actions that you're taking. And usually it is because you lack healthy coping mechanisms. So when things go to 10, you completely shut down. So this is kind of like stonewalling's first cousin. And I'm going to introduce you to the term. I don't have to introduce you to this. Everybody talks about this one. Ghosting. Ghosting is extremely hurtful behavior, even though sometimes it doesn't come from people wanting to hurt anybody else. It often comes from people who have been overwhelmed by certain circumstances that may have nothing to do with your relationship, but this is how they respond because they don't have healthy coping mechanisms. Now, there's another part to ghosting that they call zombieing, where the person that has ghosted basically comes back from the dead to explain why they did what they did. But listen, I'm going to say this to you, that if you're a person who ghosts people, what you are doing is that you're telling that person that you actually know that they actually don't matter to you. I know you don't mean to do that, but that's the message that you're sending. And you're like, well, Stephanie, I had to do what was best for me. I'm like, okay, well, listen, if you valued that relationship, probably what would have been best is to let the person know that, hey, I'm overwhelmed. I just need to take some time to myself. I'm just trying to figure some things out. Oh, look, 20-second conversation. And guess what? You're not going to dismantle a relationship that cares about you. Because this may come as a shock to you guys, right? There are people in your life that genuinely care about you. I know. Now, I realize that you may have had some dysfunctional relationships, some romantic relationships, definitely some platonic relationships, probably. And I know that sometimes, you reflect on that hurt, and sometimes that hurt just takes over your mind. All you can think is, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. It's not, but it will if you continue to let that narrative normalize in your life. You're calling in the dysfunction. You're actually creating the dysfunction that you're afraid of it. So you're actually self-sabotaging. Ghosting to me feels a lot like self-sabotage unless you've been out on one date and the person just doesn't ever call you again. Okay, well, maybe it wasn't good for them, whatever it was. But when you've been in long-term relationships, if you've known somebody for 6 months, a year, 10 years, et cetera, and I remember, story time, I remember my cousin was dating a guy. This was about 20 years ago. She was dating a guy and they were having a great relationship, so she thought, and they were supposed to go out one particular night and he never showed up ever again. Now, maybe in the last 5 to 10 years, maybe she did hear from him, but in the time that she and I were being social and hanging out, nothing. Craziest thing ever. Maybe he did pull a zombie. I don't know. But I just want to let you know that for those of us on the receiving end, I've been on the receiving end of being ghosted. I'm sure you have. If you have, put ghost in the comments. It is hurtful. It's really hurtful when you think that you know the person. It's really hurtful when you think that maybe you guys have resolved some challenges within your relationship just to look up and poof, that person is gone. That's really painful. And so I'm not saying to anyone who has ghosted someone that you don't have a right to take time to yourself. I'm saying that consider the cost of being open about what you need versus just ghosting and expecting everybody to read the context clues. People get tired of that. And ultimately, not only is it painful, but it's highly dysfunctional that when everything around you is running amok, you just don't say, hey, Everything in my life is running amok. I need a moment. Again, what did that take? Like 6 seconds? And then you stand a better chance of the relationships that you care about being intact when you're ready to resume them. Yeah, something to think about, huh? Well, listen, you know, I'm gonna quickly get into the last one. And it's so funny about this last warning sign, because I'm realizing that so many people have never heard of it. I was speaking to a group of college students, at least I think last month, about healthy relationships. And I brought up this particular term. And even though we were on Zoom, I asked in the chat, have you heard of this? And some people had, and a lot of people hadn't. And I guess being in the relationship space, some terms just become, you know, buzzwords to us. They become very common. They become familiar. And so I just knew that they had all heard about this, and they hadn't. And then, you know, some months prior, I had a conversation with a woman who was dating a man, and they were in their 50s or so. And she had experienced this, but had no clue what it was called. And I was like, okay. So we were talking, and she was telling me that this guy was so kind when they met, and the chemistry was amazing. The connection was amazing. I believe they slept together, and that was amazing. And they were about 2 months in, if that, into the relationship and getting to know each other, and everything was moving really, really fast. And she was like, everything was moving really, really fast. And, you know, he was like, we should move in together. And wait, what? Sir, I've known you like 6 weeks. Now, I mean, I could digress and get into the reasons why we take our time to get to know somebody, but that's not this video. This video is me telling you about these 4 warning signs, and I need to tell you about this one. And this is the one that I need you to share out. I need you to tell your friends, because this happens more often than you think. And you may think that it's completely normal because it feels so good. This person is treating you in a particular way. They're doting on you. They're giving you gifts. They're telling you that you're amazing. They may even be saying that you're their soulmate. And as someone who believes in soulmates as well as twin flames, yes, I do believe that these exist, but there's something different about the way it's used when it comes to this situation. And so the way I have explained it to most people is that if you were in a child's red wagon, you know, the little red wagon, they're so cute. You pull them along, they're so cute. If you were in the back of a red wagon and this person is holding the handle and you guys are going down a hill and they begin to run, if you don't think that you can ask them to slow down, or if you ask them to slow down and they feel offended, you're more than likely being love bombed. I almost feel like I need to add something to that. Dun, dun, dun. Because love bombing is very, very common, though the term may not be one that you're familiar with. And love bombing looks exactly like what I said. You're being lavish with gifts and words of affirmation and affection and intimacy of all different kinds. And it's moving very, 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 very fast. What most people ask me is, well, how do you know the difference between being love bombed and just good old fashioned chemistry? Well, it kind of goes back to the red wagon. If you ask the person, "Hey, can we slow down?" They're like, "No, like, why would we slow down? This is life. This is what we're doing. And oh my God, and I love you." And it's like, love bomb. With chemistry, you still have some control. You guys talk about where your relationship's going. And if it's going too fast, then you make a mutual agreement to slow down. Chemistry is a very good thing. And yes, you can have chemistry when you're being love bombed. Here's why being love bombed matters. Being love bombed matters because usually love bombing is the precursor to you being in a relationship that is narcissistically abusive. And why does narcissistic abuse matter? Because narcissistic abuse usually combines all of the abusives, the abusive ways, the abusive types. There we go. The types of abuse. So you'll have financial abuse, you'll have emotional abuse, you'll have verbal abuse, and yes, you may even have physical abuse. A narcissistically abusive person is going to take everything that they've given to you in this love bombing. They're going to take from you in evil ways. They're going to destroy your self-esteem. They may destroy your health. They'll definitely destroy your finances. They'll try to destroy you. It will become their mission. And so this is why I want you to understand that not only does love bombing exist, it happens a lot. And if it's happening to you right now, I want you to know that this is not going to get better. This is a tactic used by narcissists, those who suffer from narcissistic personality disorder, those who are covert or overt narcissists. These are all terms that you can look up, to bait you into their world and begin the process known as trauma bonding. And that same trauma bond, which will be, it'll be good and set probably within about 6 to 8 weeks. It's the same trauma bond that is going to keep you tethered to this relationship, possibly for years, because they have shown you how good it can be. It's not good, it's fake. They've shown you how good it can be. And when things start to go downhill, and your character's being assassinated, you're facing verbal abuse every single solitary day, you're gonna say, but it was so good in the beginning. You know how many clients I've had come to me and they say, it was so good in the beginning. Well, regardless of whether you're dealing with someone with a narcissistic personality disorder or not, it's always good in the beginning. If it's not good beyond the first 6 to 9 months, then that is about the time when the representative has left the building. So I need you to be diligent about your relationships. And I need you to understand what I've shared with you as these warning signs, because I need you to be empowered in your love life. I don't want you to have a stellar life at work and your love life is falling apart, because ultimately that will disempower you and it will begin to take its toll on every part of your life. So it's important that I share these 4 warning signs with you. If you found this meaningful, make sure you comment 4 below. Make sure you share this out. Make sure you hit subscribe. If you really like the content and you want to see more videos, I would love that. But ultimately, I really do have more I could say, but for this video, that's all I have to say about that. My name is Stephanie D. McKenzie, and I'm a speaker, teacher, author, and coach, here to remind you to always be your own superhero. And thank you so much for loving and learning and being on the lookout for these warning signs with me. See you on the next video.